I'm tired, I'm fried, my face is peeling, but we're just gonna do this. Hey guys, what's up? It's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Better late than never. I am here with my June reading wrap up. It was a really good month for me. It was my birthday month, and honestly, I really didn't have any disappointments, maybe like one or two, but pretty much everything I read, I was obsessed with. So without further ado, here are the 19 books that I read for the month of June. First this month on my Kindle, I read A Ship of Bones and Teeth. This was Karina Halley's new release, I think like in late May. I really enjoyed this story. This is a Little Mermaid meets Pirates of the Caribbean retelling, and it basically takes place about 10 years after the mermaid has married Prince Eric, and it turns out he is a bad guy. She is not happy with him, and she wants to go back to her old life. Now, what makes this story interesting is she's technically a siren. She is labeled as this really evil, monstrous thing in the ocean, and the only thing that the sirens are scared of are the sea witches. Our male hero in this story happens to be a pirate captain who takes her captive at the beginning of the story. He is searching for a sea witch himself because he has his own goals in mind. The story was very dark. It was very enjoyable, but I did end up ordering the physical copy. I ordered the hardback because look at the cover. Like, I am obsessed with this. This is such a good story. If you love a pirate romance, definitely pick this one up. But I did rate this one 5 stars. Okay, and then next on my Kindle, I picked up Beautiful Carnage by Heather Ashley. This was just a nice, quick, smutty palette cleanser that I needed. This was it's like a dad's best friend trope, so very taboo, very age gap, a very possessive. I will say check trigger warnings because like right off the bat in the beginning of the story, he is willing to cross whatever lines he can to keep her. It is book 1 in a series, and I think all these guys, like, I don't know if it was like a mafia motorcycle club. They are some kind of society that controls things. But like I said, it wasn't a whole lot to it. Just it was a nice, good smut palette cleanser. And I think I rated this one 3 stars. I read Tristix Venom by Penelope Douglas. This is Penelope's sapphic bully romance. This was the last one that I had on my list of all of Penelope's books. I am now ready to do a tier ranking of them. Very excited. Penelope is like my favorite author ever. First romance I ever read was Punk 57, so Penelope just really paved the way with what my romance tastes are, but I really enjoyed this story. So we follow Clay and Olivia. They both go to a very prestigious private school in Florida, and they've both been having feelings for each other for some years. Olivia is the poor girl, lives on the wrong side of town. She lives with her brothers. They were Native American, so you had a very cool aspect there. And then Clay is the rich girl. She lives on the wealthy side of town, and I have to say Clay was a very interesting character. I loved being inside her head because she was so focused on making sure people knew that she was straight and that she didn't have feelings for Olivia, so she came across as quite a psychopath sometimes, but it was very fun, very interesting. Both of the girls played lacrosse, so this is a sports romance as well, but I really enjoyed this, and I believe I rated it a 4.5 stars. And then I read Wilder Love by Emery Rose. This is the first book in a summer romance trilogy. I loved this book so much I immediately ordered the other 2, but this first book is going to be a second chance romance between Shane and Remy. Remy is the new girl in this coastal beach town. Shane is the local up-and-coming surfer superstar, and it is a little bit of an age gap because he is over 20 and she is 16 when they meet, and he is just very adamant that he doesn't touch her, so they develop a really good friendship. Then they get to this point where they really feel like they have these intense feelings and they just have to be with each other, but they do keep it a secret because she doesn't want him to get in trouble for being a surf star and being with someone underage. Then you're gonna get to a point where they can't be together anymore, and then you're gonna have a time jump. So I really did enjoy this story. I think the reason that they were separated was just so messed up. I hated it. It made me want to vomit and puke, but I still really enjoyed the story. It was so good. I am really excited for the next book because it is about our female heroine's twin brother, and he gives me major Joey Lynch vibes. So if you like boys, that's how I'm in. But I believe I rated this one a 4.5 stars. And if you saw my reading vlog, I reread Punk 57. This is the first in a series where I reread 5-star reads and see if I still like them. This was still a 5-star. I loved it. This was the first contemporary romance I ever read, and so being able to go back and read it again and annotate for the first time, it was just so much fun. And since I read this first before Devil's Night, I didn't appreciate Will Grayson, so every time I got a little bit of a crumb snippet, any mention of Will Grayson, I was highlighting all over the place. So this was a perfect 5-star, but if you have not read it, this is a bully romance. It is a pen pal relationship between Misha and Ryan. They were paired as pen pals in a 5th grade project, and they promised they would never look each other up on social media because they wanted to keep the illusion. You fast forward to their senior year of high school, and Misha finds out who Ryan is not very keen on her because she kind of is not what her letters say. And the story goes from there. There's a whole lot more to it. Misha has his own mission going on, but he ends up transferring to Ryan's school and bullies her. But I really, really enjoy this story. If you've never read a dark romance or a bully and you want to try, I always tell people this is a great way to dip your toe into the genre. Then I read Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. I also rated this one 5 stars. This is a dark taboo romance, and it is between a music teacher and his student. I really enjoyed this one. I've read, I think, 4 Pam Godwin books so far, and I've enjoyed all of them for the most part, but I absolutely love this story. So this takes place in New Orleans, and our female main character is very poor. She is so poor to the point that her mom is a druggie, doesn't work, doesn't pay the bills. Her brother is abusive and a drunk, and he doesn't pay the bills, and so she is the one that has to work to keep the lights on. Her father passed away before the story started, and she was basically daddy's girl. He cherished her, and now she really just doesn't have anything except for this school because she wants to go to like the best music college in the country, and this is like her only way of doing it. So our male character, he is new to the school. He was brought in by the dean because he got fired from his previous job, and this was like the only teaching position he could get due to misconduct with an employee at his previous school. And the dean brings him to this school with a stipulation that he needs to push forward her son's application to this college instead of our female main character. So basically he was brought there to purposely sabotage our female MC, and so it just really makes for a very interesting setup. I will also say it's very dark. Our female main character, she crosses a lot of lines to pay the bills, like to the point where she sells her body to her male classmates to do it. But our male hero, he is so possessive, he is so alpha. But I loved this story. Like I said, it was a perfect 5-star for me, but please look up those trigger warnings. And then I listened to the audiobook of Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This takes place in the Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones universe. This follows Mick Riva and his children. So I really liked how this story was set up. You have 2 timelines going. You basically have in the 50s when Mick Riva meets his wife and how they fell in love, and then you have the 1980s in Malibu with his 4 kids and them getting ready for this annual party that they always have. But I really liked it. Taylor has a very unique writing style, but it's very easy to jump into this world, and I will say the ending was very like, it just ended. So if you've read this book, you'll know it just kind of ends, but I did really enjoy this audiobook and I rated it a 4-star. And on my Kindle, I had an arc of Secret Obsession. This is the 3rd book in the Hockey Gods series by S. Massery, and I've been looking forward to Miles' story for months. The setup of our story here is Miles is the goalie of the team, and he's very quiet, keeps to himself, and he has been very much into Willow for some time. But his brother, being more outgoing, outspoken than him, he basically got the dibs first and dated Willow for about a year. When the story starts, his brother publicly dumps her at a party, really embarrasses her. And so Miles takes that as his cue of, okay, you chose the wrong brother, he humiliated you, and now I'm coming in and I'm going to make you pay for not choosing me in the first place. Miles was very psychotic and very twisted. I will say this book does cross a lot of dub-con, non-con, so really look up your trigger warnings there, but I loved this story. I love the direction it took. My gripes with the second book, Devious Obsession, were that I felt like it really followed the same blueprint as Brutal, but this one, I felt like it was an entirely different story, which I appreciated. So I did rate this one a 5-star, but please look up those trigger warnings. It is Ashley from the future here. As I was like transferring all of the video clips to my computer, the clip for this one, I was a dumbass and kind of accidentally deleted it. So we're just redoing it. But the next book I read was an audiobook, and it was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Perfect 5 out of 5 for me. This takes place in the same universe as Part of Your World, which was also a 5-star read for me last year. The guy in that book was such a cinnamon roll, and same for this book. Like, the guy in here is what makes this book a 5-star. So this book follows 2 doctors, and we have Jacob and I can't remember Bree and Jacob. And Jacob is the new doctor to this hospital, and they're kind of competing for, I think it was chief of surgery or something like that. They develop a cute little pen pal relationship that ends up leading to fake dating because Jacob comes from this huge family, and his brother is actually about to marry his ex-girlfriend, and so his family is just constantly worried about him because of this situation. And they're always trying to like make sure he has a girlfriend. So he and Bree decide to fake date to kind of get his family off of his back. Also, Bree has a little side plot going on with her brother who's in the hospital because he's got dialysis going on. He needs a transplant. And Jacob is kind of the hero to swoop in and help with that. But this story was so good. It was so sweet. The anxiety representation in this book was just spot on. I myself have high anxiety. Like, it literally affects everything in my day-to-day life. It's kept me from pursuing goals and really reaching my dreams because of how bad it is. And so to see that in a character is just really nice and refreshing. And like, being in Jacob's POV and how worried and stressed he was in new situations with new people and like going through steps in his head to make sure the interaction would be okay. I felt all of that. So I really enjoyed this story. It was a perfect audiobook. Like I said, perfect 5 out of 5 for me. I read A Song of Sin and Salvation by L.H. Blake. I actually read this on my Kindle, but it instantly became one of my absolute favorite books of this year, so I immediately had to order the physical. I mean, look at that cover. It is so cute. So this is a 1980s romance. We have 2 very opposites. We have our sunshine female main character, and she comes from a very religious background. I will say this book has very big religious trauma, so if you don't like that, don't read this. It was a lot, but basically her parents have groomed her into her church. Her mom makes all her clothes, so she purposely stays thin. She has to watch everything she eats. Her husband has been picked out for her, like they are set to marry as soon as graduation is over. She just doesn't have any control of her life. And then next door moves our male hero. He ends up moving in with his aunt after his mom had passed away prior to the story starting. And he is our bad boy, and he has one goal in mind: to get to San Francisco and become a rock star, no distractions. And so these two, their bedroom windows are across from each other, and they have this meet cute when she ends up taking her clothes off and he can see. And she just becomes obsessed with just like looking at him and like what his mystery is. And I have to say, I absolutely loved this story. James was willing to do anything he could to save Rebecca and get her out of her horrible situation. Her parents were terrible. This is one of those books where I just wanted to reach into the story and unalive her parents. They were like some of the worst parents ever, but I really enjoyed this story. It was a perfect 5 out of 5. Please go pick it up if you have not. Then I read The Infinity Between Us by N.S. Perkins. This is a second chance romance, and from what I've heard, it's very similar to Every Summer After. I have not read that one. But I really enjoyed this one. It was a very quick and easy read, but it follows our two main characters, and their families have been best friends their whole lives, and they ended up buying a beach house together, and then their families just spent every summer together until obviously one summer happens, and then they don't speak to each other for years. So we have two timelines going on. This is a single POV, which kind of sucks, but it was still a very good story. Our male MC was a cinnamon roll. He did everything for our female main character. There was a part in here I appreciated about how she was afraid of thunderstorms, like deathly afraid of them, and he always like came into her room and slept on the floor just to be next to her so she wouldn't be scared. But I did really enjoy this. It did remind me a little bit of Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, but if you hate the third act conflict in that book, that is not the third act conflict. It's not gross, it's not disgusting, it doesn't make you want to vomit, but I really did enjoy this story. Like I said, if you're looking for a nice, quick, easy summer read, this is a great one. And then I read Endgame by Chloe Walsh. This is the first book in her Ocean Bay series. As you all know, I'm slowly making my way through her backlist, and so I decided to start the series for the summer, and I really enjoyed it. So this takes place in Florida. It is between two step siblings, so it's going to be a little bit taboo there. It is a little bit of a bully romance. He is really not nice to her at the beginning of this book. They do not like each other. He makes it very well known. But basically, at the beginning of the story, she moves to Florida with her mom. They move in because her mom is pregnant, and she and his dad are going to have a baby together. So they are going to share a sibling together. So this is really taboo in that sense. But the parents really suck, basically. They get there, they live in this mansion, and then the parents decide to just take off on their yacht for like a month and leave the kids alone. But there's a lot of tension, a lot of angst, a lot of banter. He did not want her there. He really did not want her there. He made it well known. He had a sister, so he had his own reasonings and protections of why he was so tired of all of these step siblings. My son is playing the Xbox. I'm so sorry if you can hear that. But yeah, I enjoyed this. It was a nice 4-star. I am really excited for the next book. It covers both of their best friends, and the female main character, she is like a burn survivor, so she's got all these scars. Very excited, very intrigued. But if you love Chloe Walsh, go try this one. So this next book is very controversial, but I absolutely loved it. It was probably one of my new favorite books of the year. I want the physical copy, but I want a discreet cover. So the fact that there is not one really upsets me. But it is Untouchable by Sam Mariano. I picked this up on my Kindle, and oh my goodness. Okay, so I will say the very first chapter of this story does open up with sexual assault between the hero and the heroine. So if you do not like that, this is probably not going to be the book for you. And I was like, you know, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can do sexual assault if it's between the male hero and the female main character. But this story took me on such a wild ride. So our story is set up with our main character, Zoe. She had previously turned in one of the football players for getting a little handsy on a date when she said no. And because this is a small Texas town in football, they all blamed her because he was kicked off the team for the remainder of the season. And so everybody's just been really cruel to her at school. They've been nasty to her. And our first chapter opens up with the guy that she reported following her in the hallways of the school because classes are going, and he managed to catch her in a secluded area. He happens to be with his two friends. They corner her in a classroom, and while he's talking to her and bullying her, Carter, our main character, he's standing there and he's just getting really turned on and intrigued with Zoe. So he kind of steps in and kicks the other two out and basically forces Zoe to do things to him. So right after that, obviously Zoe's a little traumatized, and she stays home from school sick for a few days. Carter shows up to her house with soup and tells her parents, oh, I'm her boyfriend. And because this is Texas and football, and because she's been so ostracized, her mom is very welcoming and opening to this relationship. She's excited for her. So the story goes from there. Carter is so unhinged, so toxic. Like I said, this book is going to cross a lot of lines. So if you don't like any of that, don't read this book. But if you like toxic relationships, please go give this one a shot. But I loved it. I know a lot of people DNF'd this book, but like I said, if you can get past that, it does make for an interesting story. Okay, and then I was so intrigued with that book that I immediately had to read more of Sam Mariano. So the next book that I read was Descent. This one was a very interesting one. So this is not a high school one. Most of Sam Mariano's are high school bully romances. So this was not. These were two adults, which was nice and refreshing. But basically our male main character, he became obsessed with our female main character after seeing her at a work Christmas party like the year prior because one of his employees was her boyfriend. They had broken up when the story started, and so he like blackmailed the ex-boyfriend or some way of getting her to come to his nightclub, and there he does things to her. So once again, this is another book that at the beginning we're going to cross the non-consent lines. He makes it known at this club that this is a club where people have rape kinks. So if you cry out and scream for help, no one's going to help you. They have a night together and she goes about her ways and he's not willing to let her go. He gets copies of her apartment key made. He controls every aspect of her life. But this was very dark, and if you want some good smut palette cleansers with a toxic romance, this was a good one. Okay, and then last by Sam Mariano for this month, I read Even If It Hurts. I absolutely loved this one. Now, I won't say it's a bully romance, but it is very toxic because our male main character, basically, I think he was written with Nate Jacobs in mind from Euphoria. He was so dark and unhinged and twisted, and he was willing to do whatever he could to make sure Aubrey stayed his, like controlling who was her friends, all of that stuff. But our story starts off with Aubrey basically pissing off this spoiled rich girl. Her name was Anai. I said Anai, I don't really know how to pronounce it. And Anai is so pissed off, she wants Aubrey to suffer for it. So Anai recruits Dare, her boyfriend hookup buddy, to basically crush Aubrey's heart and soul. Now, if you have seen the movie Cruel Intentions, this book definitely gave off those vibes. I love that movie, so I really, really enjoyed that aspect of this book.
What is going on? Don't you people have any respect?
And obviously, once Derek gets with Aubrey, he likes her more than that. And like I said, the lines he's willing to cross to make sure she stays his, I was getting chills, but I really, really enjoyed this book. My only gripes were the ending. It was one of those stories where it just ended. You know when you're reading a romance book and sometimes the ending trudges on too long and you're like, okay, we're happy now, we can wrap this up. This was the opposite effect. I was like, wait, it's over? Okay, that was a choice. But either way, I still really enjoyed it. If you love toxic, go look up this one. And then I read The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. I really enjoyed this story. So this is the second book to the Mile High Club, or to Mile High, whatever. I really enjoyed that one too. My only gripe was it was a tad bit too long. This one, I really had no gripes. Ryan Shea, can we just get a round of applause for Ryan Shea? So this is going to be a fake dating trope. So this story is going to follow Ryan and Indy, and Ryan is the twin brother to Stevie, who is our female main character in Mile High, and Indy is Stevie's coworker and best friend. So in Mile High, Indy had broken up with her boyfriend of a really long time and was just very crushed by it. She's such a romantic. She has all these dreams of marriage and everything. And Ryan is a very closed off, keep to himself person. He really only trusts his sister. And so at the beginning of the story, Indy needs a place to live. And Stevie asks Ryan if Indy can move in and take her old room. Ryan doesn't want this, but because it's his sister, he says yes and is willing to help out. Right off the bat, they don't hit it off because Indy is very colorful, she's very messy, she's very chaotic, and Ryan is not. Literally, the aesthetic of his apartment is black and white. nothing is out of order. Like, it just, everything is put in place. And so when he gets home, Indy's got clothes everywhere, and he's freaking out. He's really, really freaking out. But time goes on, and they really develop a great friendship. Ryan is just one of those book boyfriends that just the little things he does for Indy, like braiding her hair, making her coffee the way she likes it. Even before they were romantic with each other, he went as far as to learn sign language so he could communicate with her father. And it was just very beautiful. It was very, very touching. Ryan obviously plays basketball, if I did not mention that, but I really enjoyed this story. It does get to a point where they do need to fake date, because Ryan, like I said, he's very closed off. He happens to be the captain of his basketball team, but because he's so closed off, the team just really doesn't know him. The general manager just doesn't really know him, and in turn, the general manager just doesn't think that he is captain material. And so Ryan decides to fake date Indy to warm up to the team and to come across as more of an open, friendly guy. And so I really, really enjoyed that aspect. So if you're looking for a good fake dating one, that is great as well. But if I did not mention, this was a 5-star for me. And then on my Kindle, I buddy read Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels, I think. I buddy read this with my friend Demi, and let's just say this was quite a disappointment. I will say this was an entertaining buddy read because it was so bad that we were laughing and having fun throughout the reading journey. But I don't know. Maybe I would have liked it better if I hadn't read so many small town nanny books prior to this. But for me, it just, I don't know. I felt like they went from banter and enemies to hooking up very quickly. I feel like it was very glossed over. Like, the setup is supposed to be that he's a cop, he's a dad, and she moves back to town because she left her college, and they have this history with each other because I guess she had babysat his kid years ago and really screwed up, and so he doesn't trust her. And so it had this great setup. They had this amazing banter. But like I said, it jumped to insta-love very quickly, and I didn't buy the chemistry. I didn't buy the romance. I also will say that this book was very heavily focused on the fact that this was forbidden, and there was nothing forbidden about this. These two spent the whole book freaking out that her dad was not going to approve because her dad happened to be his boss. Her dad didn't care when it was revealed. Nobody cared. Like, seriously, if you're going to write a forbidden romance book and the title of it is forbidden, and then when people find out they're together and nobody cared. I didn't care. It just, yeah, it fell flat. And then the third act conflict, it was like, why? Like, the twist in this book, why? It was just unnecessary. So I rated it a 2. I skimmed a lot to the end, but I don't think I'll continue on with this series. But if you liked it, good for you. Like I said, I just think I've read too many small town nanny dad tropes, and this just did not hit the bar for me. And then I listened to the audiobook of The Outpost by Devney Perry. This is book 4 in the Jameson Valley series. I am really enjoying this series. It started off a little rocky, but I'm really enjoying it. So this book follows Sabrina and Beau, and it was set up in book 3, The Lucky Heart. Sabrina is the best friend of the heroine in Lucky Heart, and she is a reporter, and she went undercover, and she basically exposed her mafia boyfriend, and he went after her, and so she ran away from Seattle to Montana to her best friend to hide out. And they end up putting her in an outpost area out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. And Beau, one of the guys who is friends with all the male heroes in this series, he takes Sabrina up there and like looks after her and all of that. So it's a very close proximity relationship. Really good. I really enjoyed it. Just mountain man, wilderness, all of those good vibes. And the last book I read for the month of June was Addicted After All. This is the last book in Lily and Lo's story. So I cherished every minute of this. Lily and Lo are my absolute favorite couple from this series. They're actually in my top 3 book couples of all time. They're nerdy, they're a mess, but I love them and I will defend them to the ends of the earth. So like I said, this one wrapped up their story. It will continue on with Feel the Fire. This is just the last one with their POV, so that is kind of sad because like I said, they are my favorites. I have had a lot of people ask if you can skip the Addicted series and start with Kiss the Sky because the tropes of this just doesn't interest them. And I will say yes, you could, but I think in order to get the better character moments and connections, it's just better to read them all. The first book, Addicted, that's when they all meet, and it just, you get all those connections in that story. And I will say also, I didn't want to read the first Addicted book. The tropes did not interest me at all, but I decided to just try it on a whim, and I had no expectations for it. Like, I kind of had low expectations actually, but I think it was because of that it ended up surprising me and becoming one of my favorite series of all time. So I loved this. I cherished every moment of it. Feel the Fire is up next for me, but I'm slowly making my way through this series. So I am hoping to finish by December. That is my goal, but I'm not like jumping to read Feel the Fire like tomorrow. I just like eat a book a month, I think is good for me because I just don't want to finish. But 5 out of 5, perfect. Lily and Lo, they just have my whole heart. All right, so that is going to do it for the 19 books that I read for the month of June. Like I said, this was a very good reading month for me. I really only had a few that just were not that awesome. But yeah, summer is in full swing. Right now, I am on a very dark and toxic kick. So I'm hoping to do a toxic romance recommendation video very, very soon. But that is all I have for you today. So as always, don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.